What is Rick's assessment of COMEX warehouse stocks versus COMEX deliveries? Registered stocks appear to have historically been managed on a trailing 12-month deliveries basis. What he's tracking here is the typical registered stocks versus deliveries over time, if you can see what he's referring to.
Yep, I see it.
And it seems to, ever since the silver squeeze started, you can see right around here is when it diverged, where deliveries are going through the roof, registered inventory is collapsing, and we've never seen that before.
I mean, frankly, I think the Ditch the Deep State is probably better prepared to answer the question than I. From my viewpoint, were I entertaining counterparty risk when the stock to float ratio goes negative that way? Let's just say if I was a lender in that space, I wouldn't be happy about that graph. Certainly a risk manager at a big trading house wouldn't like the look of that graph. Traditionally, as you suggest, the volume of futures contracts relative to the inventory that's considered to be necessary to cover those outstanding contracts is traditionally low because the contracts almost always settle for cash rather than for silver. What's happening now is that people are actually using the futures market as an acquisitions medium, which is to say that people are in fact standing for delivery. It ends up being cheaper often to do that. We can't do it at Sprott because we can't assume and won't assume counterparty risk, which the buyer in a futures market, despite the assurances of the futures market, I guess always does. Obviously, that would be a concern. The second part, well, I guess it wasn't a question. In that case, it was a statement. I think that what's going on in the silver market right now, which is illustrated by that graph, probably has the attention of every risk manager and credit manager in the trading space. The same sense of wonderment that I had that a new class of retail consumer could tighten up the physical silver market to the extent that it has over the last 4 months must have the attention. Well, I know it has the attention of trading desks because I talk to them, but it must also have the attention of credit officers in terms of hypothecated delivery, hypothecated derivatives in precious metals, and certainly would have to have the attention of risk managers.
Well, you know, where I'm about to share your favorite graph, Rick. So this is the updated graph that we've all come to love from Ditch to Deep State, where he tracks the vertical line here of when silver squeeze started.
Yep.
He updated this just this morning for me with the latest data just for you. And we see here where PSLV, Sprott PSLV just went into overdrive, launching. You're doing your part, we're doing our part at the retail level. And COMEX is in sharp decline for the registered inventory. And, you know, some people make the comment, well, hey, registered's registered. There's plenty of other silver ineligible. But I've seen the data on eligible also, and that's in sharp decline. It seems like Sprott has cleared out a lot of the 1,000-ounce bars that traditionally, I get it, you guys don't take silver from the COMEX, you don't deal in futures.
Right.
But you are intercepting bars that would normally go to replenish COMEX inventory. Would that be an accurate statement? You're buying the same bars that COMEX would normally, the bullion banks would be sending there for sale, for stand for delivery. So right now there's only people standing for delivery, but not as much available for replenishment. Is that accurate, or am
I don't know, to be honest with you. My suspicion is that while I love this chart, that the two different lines on the chart are related to each other, but not as directly as the chart might indicate, which is to say that the decline in COMEX inventory has to do with the fact that for the first time in a very long time, futures aren't, if you will, trading sardines. They're eating sardines. People are using the futures market to acquire silver. The consequence of that is that the silver is being delivered out of COMEX as people stand for delivery. Some of those people may turn around and sell it to us. I don't know. We don't know. And it's worthy to note that our line, which is to say the increase in Sprott inventory, doesn't directly deplete the COMEX because, as you point out, we don't buy off of COMEX.
Mhm.
I think the gap is interesting because it shows something different. It shows institutional disintermediation around silver and retail acquisition of silver, which I think that graph does a spectacular job of.
Mhm.
So is it fair to say that the silver squeeze is working to some extent?
I think it's absolutely fair to say that the silver squeeze is working. I think the more important thing with regards to the silver market is that the silver squeeze, if that's the right phrase, has introduced perhaps 1 million consumers to the silver market so that they can consider all aspects of the silver market. There is a class of people introduced to the silver subject who now understand the need for a savings product, for a medium of exchange that's simultaneously a store of value. And I suspect that there will be a substantial number of people who, as a consequence of being introduced to silver through the silver squeeze, will incorporate silver into their overall financial plan, not for a week, but rather for a lifetime. It's important that the young people who are interested in silver look at graphs of prior bull markets. Mm-hmm. These are not 1 week or 2 week or 1 month or 3 month affairs. In my lifetime, there's been two, 1970 to 1981 and 2000 to 2011. These are decade-long affairs. And in terms of dimension, you're not playing this game for dimes. When you have a real silver bull market, I remember my first one, the price went from $1.50 to $50, if my memory serves me well. In the second one, the price went from $5 to $50. So I think what's important about the phenomenon that we're experiencing now is that there are some people who are involved in the silver squeeze who look at it as a game. They look at it as a continuation of AMC or GameStop. They look at a market that is out of balance in terms of stock to float. Some other, and those people may or may not understand the intrinsic value of silver to a portfolio. What is occurring, however, as a consequence of that is a sea change of understanding among literally hundreds of thousands of investors, where as a consequence of being introduced to silver as a stock versus float trade, people are coming to understand silver's place or potential place in their portfolio, and that's much more important.
You know, I remember your comments at George Gammon's event this weekend. I was there listening, as I said, and from we're on Wall Street Silver on the Reddit community all the time. I never see anyone talking about selling on Wall Street Silver. It's a long-term hold for, I'm sure some people it's a short-term thing, but I'd say for 99% of the people there, that's physical silver that these people collect and store. It's gone for decades. It might be gone intergenerationally gone. And just like where Sprott PSLV, it's quite often a one-way trip, and that silver's not coming out of storage for many, many, many years. I can tell you my physical silver, I've never sold an ounce, and I hope I never need to use it, and I'll just give it to my kids. My silver miners, that's what I trade, right? I view my silver mining stocks as my trading vehicle. Physical silver, I don't view as a trading vehicle. And I think a lot of the other people feel the same way.
Well, I think you've done an unusually good job, frankly. You see, I pay you with flattery.
Yeah.
I think you've done an unusually good job of covering the subject of silver fairly broadly. And my suspicion is that the people who are active on your channel, Ditch the Deep State being one, have thought beyond the stock to float, thought beyond it as a 1 week or 2 week or 3 week trade, and have come to understand that silver might play a different role in their financial future. And I think that's great. Like you, I believe that precious metals, I hold both gold and silver personally, are liquidity. I think of them as money, albeit somewhat volatile money. If you denominate your purchases and sales in US dollars, they're volatile money. But I personally believe in liquidity, despite the fact that I'm old and fat and rich. Liquidity enhances my sense of well-being and allows me to sleep at night. And I consider precious metals to be good liquidity. Like yourselves, I will likely trade my silver stocks before I trade my silver. Now, there will become a time, I suspect, when silver graces the cover of Bloomberg Business Week or something like that, when the silver trade has become so ubiquitous that all the generalist money tries to crowd in the silver space, when the market is screaming for liquidity, and I'll do my job as a good speculator and supply some.
All right. Hey, will you call me about a week before that and let me know?
You know, I'm self-important, but I don't suspect that I'm important to the silver market.
All right. Well, I'll get you drunk with beer and we'll just find out what's really going on inside your head.
We've been talking about mining. We haven't really gone down that road. My personal experience is buying miners is just a minefield. Unless you know what you're doing, there's so many like questionable companies out there. There's some questionable promoters out there for mining stocks. What advice would you give someone just getting into the mining space, looking to buy a miner?
Use your own common sense, first of all. If the story seems too good to be true, it almost certainly is. Remember the old Mark Twain quote, "A miner is a liar standing next to a hole in the ground." That's truer than many people would like to admit. The second thing is that too many silver stock speculators crowd up for really improbable outcomes, where if something almost impossible happened, they'd make a lot of money. They confuse, I think, probability with reward. When the generalist money crowds into the silver space, the best silver mining stocks in the world do well enough that you don't need to take outsized risks with the penny dreadfuls. My friend Doug Casey points out that the market capitalization of the 10 best silver miners in the world is so small that when the generalist money finds their way into that space, the market capitalizations can't contain the money. He likens the outcome to trying to siphon Hoover Dam through a garden hose. If you're willing to come down in the quality spectrum and increase your risk intelligently, that is high quality people, good financials, implemented business plans. I remember back to the early part, frankly, of the decade of the 90s, which wasn't even really a silver bull market, but we had an explosive market nonetheless in the mining equities. I remember being part of the reformulation of silver standard resources. If my memory serves me correctly, the first financing was at 72 cents with a full warrant. The same year we did Pan American Silver, then Silver Juniors, but high quality people, good assets. Pan American, if my memory serves me correctly, we financed at 50 cents. Within 6 years, those two stocks went from 50 and 72 cents respectively to over $40.
Wow.
The lesson associated with that is don't go too deep in the penny dreadfuls unless you know them well, because you can make so much money in the legitimate silver stocks or the legitimate silver juniors that you don't need to take the inordinate risk around, consolidated orangutan silver explorers, the sort of 3 cent penny dreadful. You don't need to do that. You will see a circumstance where if the silver price does what I think it will do, Pan American Silver, as an example, currently beat down. I'm not saying it's going to triple, but it could easily triple or quadruple. And if you think about getting a triple or a quadruple in the 3 to 4 year time frame, if you're not comfortable with that, buy lottery tickets or do something that's fun. Our silver portfolio manager there, Maria Smirnova, although she might not be very well known to the street, was Eric Sprott's personal analyst for 15 years. If you're Eric Sprott's personal silver analyst, you are going to make the odd mistake. You are also going to be aggressive, but you are not going to be stupid.
Yeah.
She had a very, very, very good client in her upbringing.
I also know you have a thing where you'll rank people's stock picks. Could you mention that also? And I'm going to put the link in the description if anyone wants this.
I love the opportunity to do that. I end up learning at least as much as I teach. Any of your viewers who care about my opinion of their natural resource stocks, doesn't have to be silver stocks, but please no pot stocks, please no technology stocks, please no cryptocurrencies. Your resource stocks, if you go to a web form, sprottusa.com/rankings, enter the names of your natural resource stocks. I personally will rank them 1 to 10, 1 being best, 10 being worst. And I'll comment on individual issues where I think my comments might have value. Additionally, to the extent that your listeners care, if they mention charts in the question line, I will send them 2 charts. One, the best precious metals equities index I know, going back 50 years, to see really the anatomy of a bull market. It's really fascinating. And the second would be the Goldman Sachs Commodity Index, going back 100 years, that talks about how cheap the commodities indexes are relative to other asset classes, financial asset classes, going back 100 years. That's sprottusa.com/rankings. If you want charts, mention charts.
That link will be in the description, and I hope a lot of people use it because from everything I've seen, it's awesome. So, hat tip to you there, Mr. Rule. How was your vacation? I heard you were traveling last week.
Yeah,
where'd you go?
We took a vacation in honor of her birthday. We went to Bend, Oregon, east of the Cascades, in search of sunnier weather, and of course ran into unseasonable rainstorms. But we had a good time nonetheless.
Gotcha. Well, you must have gotten. You said you went to Anacortes, so you must have been farther up north in Washington.
I live in Anacortes.
Oh, okay.
I should report to you, by the way, that Wall Street Silver bumper stickers adorn downtown Anacortes, much to my delight.
Okay, I need a selfie if you see
I'll
one
do
again.
that. I will do that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rick Rule, for joining us at Wall Street Silver. Again, thank you everyone at Wall Street Silver. We hope to see you soon. Take care.